You know, in our digital world, trillions of dollars are zipping around the globe every single second. But hiding in plain sight, moving silently alongside all that legitimate cash, are what you might call digital ghosts, super sophisticated fraudsters who operate in the shadows. Today, we're going to go on the hunt. Just take a look at this number, $2 trillion. I mean, wow. According to the United Nations, that's the high-end guess for how much money is laundered across the globe in just 1 year. That's a number so big, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. And believe it or not, that's just one piece of this giant, messy puzzle. The problem hits a lot closer to home when we talk about something we all have in our wallets: credit cards. Fraud there is on track to cost us over $40 billion a year. The scale of this fight is it's immense.
Which, of course, brings us to the big question for today. When the bad guy isn't a person you can see, but just a string of data, a phantom in the network, how in the world do you catch them? How do you catch a ghost in the machine?
Well, to answer that, you first have to learn to think like they do. See, modern fraud isn't just about swiping some credit card numbers anymore. Oh no, it's a seriously sophisticated business with a pretty complex playbook. So let's break down a few of their favorite moves.
Okay, get this. The fake tracking ID scheme. It is so clever, it's kind of scary. A fraudster buys something, anything really. Then they start a return. But, and here's the trick, they mess with the shipping label. The company's system sees a package is in transit, so it goes ahead and issues the refund. But that package, it's never coming back. So the ghost gets to keep the item and gets the money back. And the playbook doesn't stop there. You've got the simpler stuff, like just claiming a package never showed up, or that the box was empty. But then you get to the really advanced stuff, like synthetic identity fraud. This is where criminals don't just steal your identity. They build one from scratch, stitching together little bits of real and fake data. They create a brand new person out of thin air, a ghost that's almost impossible to trace. So yeah, the fraudsters are smart, no question about it. But the good guys? They are fighting back with some seriously powerful tools of their own. This is where we get to unleash the digital detectives. These are machine learning algorithms designed specifically to hunt for these ghosts. But here's the massive challenge they're up against. Look at this. Almost every single transaction is legit. We're talking 99.8%. The fraud is just this tiny, tiny sliver. It's the classic finding a needle in a haystack problem. How do you find that one fraudulent transaction without messing up things for the thousands of perfectly normal customers? And I'm not just being poetic here. This is a real, fundamental challenge in the world of machine learning. It's called class imbalance. When the thing you're looking for is that rare, it's incredibly tough for a computer model to even learn what fraud looks like in the first place. So how do these digital detectives actually work? Well, you can kind of think of them in two main flavors. First, you've got supervised learning. This is like a detective who studies old case files. You feed it tons of examples of what's fraud and what's legit, and it learns the patterns. Then you have unsupervised learning. This is more like a detective with an amazing gut instinct. It doesn't need old cases. It just looks at all the data and says, what here just looks weird. So let's pop the hood and look at the actual tools in the arsenal. You've got popular models like Random Forest, which is kind of like a committee of experts, all voting on a decision. Then there's XGBoost, which is an absolute powerhouse, especially for finding that needle in the haystack. On the unsupervised side, you have things like Isolation Forest, which is designed specifically to hunt for those strange outliers, and autoencoders, which are masters at learning what normal is so they can instantly flag anything that doesn't fit. Okay, so with all these fancy models, how do we know if they're any good? Well, the key measurement here is something called recall. And it's pretty simple, really. Recall answers just one question. Of all the bad stuff that actually happened, what percentage did our model successfully catch? You want a high recall. It means fewer criminals are getting away with it. So what do you think a good recall score looks like in the real world? You might be surprised. In one actual banking case study, the very best model they had achieved a fraud recall of just 34%. And I know what you're thinking. That sounds awful. It means 2/3 of the fraud got through. But here's the thing. It hints at a deeper business truth. If you try to catch more fraud, you often end up accidentally blocking more real customers. So that 34% isn't just a technical limit. It's a strategic choice. And this chart right here really shows you that brutal trade-off in action. This is a precision recall curve. To increase your recall, to catch more fraud, you almost always have to sacrifice what's called precision. In plain English, that means you start flagging more and more innocent customers. It's this constant, difficult balancing act between keeping things secure and not making your customers angry. So you can see the problem, right? The old ways have their limits. That's why the industry is looking for the next big thing in defense. And it's a really fascinating one that goes way beyond just looking at what you buy. It's all about you.
Let me ask you this. What if your security wasn't based on a password you have to remember, or even a fingerprint you have, but on the unique way you do things? What if your security was based on something you do?
Well, that brings us to the world of behavioral biometrics. It sounds like something out of science fiction, doesn't it? It's tech that creates a digital fingerprint of you, not based on your body, but on your habits and actions. It's totally seamless, and it's incredibly hard for a fraudster to copy. And this digital signature, it's built from all these tiny little clues that you're probably not even aware of. We're talking about the unique rhythm of how you type, the pressure you put on the keys, the specific way you scroll and swipe, even the angle you usually hold your phone at. All these little subconscious things create a profile that is uniquely you.
But here's the real game changer. This isn't just a one-time check when you log in. It's continuous. The system is passively watching your behavior during your entire session. So if a hacker somehow steals your password and gets in, their behavior, the way they type, the way they move the mouse, it won't match yours, and the system can spot the takeover and lock them out in real time.
But even with these incredible new technologies, this fight it's far from over. This is, and it probably always will be, a never-ending arms race.
And just to really drive this home, let's look at one more case study. Different bank, different data, but it's the same story. This curve shows us once again that while the models are pretty good at telling fraud and legit transactions apart, actually catching a high percentage of that fraud is still really, really hard. That darned needle in a haystack problem just doesn't go away.
And this really brings us to the ultimate takeaway here. The Holy Grail isn't just to stop 100% of fraud, it's to stop fraud without creating any friction or hassle for your legitimate customers. Because hey, if your security system is so tight that it's constantly blocking good people from making purchases, you're just losing business in a different way. It's all about security without friction.
Which leaves us with one final, kind of provocative thought to chew on. These new technologies, like behavioral biometrics, they offer amazing security, but they do it by analyzing our most subtle, personal digital actions. So the real question for the future is this. In this constant fight for more security, how much of our own digital behavior are we really willing to share?